but not the poor air quality. The government should not be liable for the damage.
Okay, in order to examine whether the government is liable for Sophia's death or not, we should now move on to the second part, which is to see if there is a breach of duty of care.
Our discussion should proceed in two ways: air quality and food safety. If the plaintiff really believes that the government has breached the duty of care and caused Sophia's death, the plaintiff should clarify such breach with solid evidence.
Alright, in this case, the government is obviously negligent in ensuring good air quality. This can be shown by some important figures obtained from the websites. This is the graph showing the concentration of suspension particles in the air throughout the past 15 years, from 1995 to 2010. It does not show a significant decline in the concentration of the air pollutants. And so, the number of asthma patients has an increasing trend throughout the years. Notwithstanding, from the increasing trend of number of asthma patients, it is foreseeable that the worsening air quality has an obvious and adverse effect on the situation. Despite some citizens suffering from asthma diseases, the government fails to improve the air quality, and this is clearly a breach of duty of caring citizens' health.
I think this is not the case, and that the government has actually implemented numerous measures in view of improving air quality. For example, law has been passed to ensure that SO2 filters are installed in vehicles and SO2 emissions has been significantly reduced. The government has implemented the scheme of switching off the IO engine. With this significant effort in improving air quality, the government has reasonably fulfilled the implied responsibility for the duty of care. For the increasing concentration of air pollutants, it could be attributed to the emission by the Ming factories in Pearl River Delta. Here is Hong Kong and here is the Pearl River Delta. On the contrary to the plaintiff's claim, the government has actually done its best in preventing citizens' health from being affected by air pollutants. The government, being a regional one, has attained the standard of care sufficiently and has reduced the emission of air pollutants in the local region as much as possible. Therefore, the government has not breached the duty.
Okay, you may be right that the government, in the aspect of air quality, has not breached the duty of care. You may also be right that, subjectively, the government has tried its best in improving air quality, but the government has in fact still breached a duty of care, that is, the duty of ensuring food safety.
I know what you are trying to say. You would simply put forward that Sophia's death was due to the apricots taken, and the government has failed to prevent Sophia from eating the apricots, which contain sulfur dioxide acting as the food additives. Is that your opinion?
Yes, partly. Sulfur dioxide is an acidic gas which consists of irritating properties and is believed to be one of the gases that trigger fatal asthma attack. Because of this reason, the US government has actually prohibited the use of sulfur dioxide as food additives.
But this does not imply that the government could likely foresee such danger in Sophia's apricots. There are two reasons. Firstly, the apricots were purchased in Thailand, and that the Hong Kong government has no power or jurisdiction to monitor the content of food products sold overseas. Secondly, Sophia's apricots should be categorized as her or her family's personal belongings, and that the government has no duty to examine them under normal circumstances. With these two reasons, the government can hardly notice that the apricots were containing sulfur dioxide. Thus, the government has no chance to foresee that damages and does not breach the duty of care.
I agree with your former points that the government has neither the responsibility nor the ability to prevent Sophia from eating the apricots. But I do not agree with your latter conclusion. The government, in fact, has breached the duty of care for food safety. Let me ask you a question. Do you smoke?
No, but some of my cousins do smoke.
Have you ever examined the cigarette package?
Not really.
That's alright. I've got some packages printed on here. It consists of eye-catching warnings with pictures. The warnings on the packages are printed by the local companies as required by the government, bringing out messages like smoking may cause lung cancers or smoking may result in disorder of male sexual ability. These warnings are required to be printed. This is just the right demonstration, showing that the government has the responsibility of warning citizens the potential harmful effects of the products. These can be applied to food safety. While seeing a high proportion of asthma patients in Hong Kong, the government should not ignore these potential health hazards brought by such food additives. The government, like what it does to the cigarette supplier, should also require food manufacturers to provide warning labels declaring that the sulfur dioxide may trigger asthma disease.
But the government could not require the Thailand apricot seller to do so.
You are right. But if the government has implemented this warning policy for the local food manufacturers, asthma patients could be more aware of what they eat, and either Sophia or her family could be aware of what Sophia was going to eat. It is about raising citizens' awareness of examining the food content. This would be important for the patient, as sulfur dioxide, though being unusual food additives, could be fatal to them. As asthma patients are normal people that do not have any physiological or chemical knowledge about the harmful effect of sulfur dioxides, the government has the responsibility to convey such message by the warning labels. But until now, the government does not have the corresponding policy to warn the asthma patients. Thus, the government has actually breached the duty of care for raising awareness towards food safety.